Hi friends, and welcome back to Gardening Suburbia. My name is Amanda and I'm a homesteader here in Cincinnati, Zone 6. And today, slash a few days ago, I went ahead and got all of my sweet to mild peppers planted as well as my tomatoes. And I wanted to take you guys along for this journey of me deciding what I was planting and kind of why, as well as why I'm planting so much. So today is March 9th. It is a beautiful day outside, but we are going to hop back in time about 4 days to March 5th, to when I planted all of these beautiful little seedlings that are just now starting to emerge. So first things first, when I am planting my tomatoes and peppers, the majority of the time I am sowing them thick. I like to sow them thick, one variety per cup, or per container, and then I like to wait until those are about 3 to 4 weeks old, or they have 1 to 2 sets of true leaves. The true leaves will emerge after the first set of cotyledon leaves. Those are just the initial leaves that pop out of the seed. And then the true leaves are those that are true to the variety that you're planting. After they get their true leaves, I will then go ahead and take the clump of seedlings that I have and carefully take them apart, giving them their own designated cup that they can go ahead and continue to grow out until I plant them outside. For most of my varieties I am planting in this video, I am going ahead and only planting them about 7 weeks prior to my last estimated frost. I have found over the years that planting them just a little bit later makes it so I don't have to uppot them quite as much, and that the plants don't get too big and unruly for me to manage. Now, this can differ depending on what climate you're in. If your growing season is very short, you may want to start them a little sooner than what others are doing, like myself. Or if you have a long growing season, I have about 175 days in my growing season. Right now it's looking like it might be a little more just because it's been so warm, and I haven't really been seeing a cool down yet. But the longer the growing season you have, the more time you have available for you to get a harvest. So with our indeterminate tomatoes, those tomatoes will go as long as the season allows, like as long as there's nice temperatures, it's not getting too cold, the pests aren't taking it out, and diseases aren't taking it out. And those are the varieties that are going to continue to give you big, beautiful harvests here and there. Typically with myself, I like to harvest tomatoes as they come in, score them, core them, just basically popping an X on the bottom of them, coring out the innards, and then placing them in a plastic bag inside of the freezer so that I can go ahead and kind of grow my inventory of tomatoes to a point that I have enough to go ahead and then process into salsa, tomato sauce, or use in some kind of dish. It changes. In this video, I am using my 2.5-inch pots from Bootstrap Farmer. I really have enjoyed using these. I think this is my 3rd season using this setup. I originally got these as a Christmas gift, something that I asked for because they are quite expensive, but they should last you quite a long time if you take care of them. And don't leave them outside to weather. We're using the 2.5-inch pots. This setup was perfect for the amount of varieties that I ended up growing. And I think I have 2 pots on this tray that didn't end up getting varieties, so I may end up using those 2 pots for something else, because I do still have quite a few seeds left to start for the season. If you guys were here for an earlier video, I did go through and show you how I am kind of keeping myself organized when starting my seeds. I personally like to have them already separated in the weeks that I need to have them planted, as well as with little post-its that are screaming in my face saying it. So this is my planted box. So I can go through and see everything that I've planted. I even have kept these seed packets that are completely empty. I'm going to go ahead after everything is started, go through my seed packets and either decide if I'm going to need to purchase more of that seed, or if those guys are just done and I got what I needed for this season and I can move on to a new variety. I know there are a few varieties that are in my head that I know I didn't have any seeds for, but I didn't want to put an order in for a single seed packet. So they're on a list in my brain right now. So these are all of the varieties that have started so far this year. And then I have my box over here, which my onions snuck into. These are the last groups of things that need to be started this year. So I've got my 4 to 6 weeks, and then my 2 to 4 weeks, which I am actually going to be taking some of my lettuce seeds out today just to experiment to see if I can get some beautiful little lettuce patches for this warmer weather that we've been having. It's still getting kind of cold at night. The weather has been about around the 40s at night, 50-ish, 40s, maybe high 30s. So I still want to go ahead and give lettuce a try this early in the season because it is still the beginning of March. So we're closing in on spring. If you guys are unaware, the vernal equinox or spring is officially on March 20th. So we are, what is that, about a little less than 2 weeks from the spring equinox, which is crazy. And also, I know from other people in my group, or I know from other people on a Facebook group I'm a part of for the Cincinnati area, that they like to plant their potatoes as early as St. Patty's Day, which I believe is the 17th of March. So I'm super excited about that because I have lots of seed potatoes in the basement that are ready to be planted. But let us get back to today's planting. Today's planting was sweet peppers, or mild peppers, to tomatoes. To go ahead and save myself some time while I was planting these, I did go ahead and pre-label all of my tags. So I just get these tags off of Amazon. They do have some colorful ones, which I still have. I actually been looking into trying to figure out how to remove the permanent marker from the label so I can reuse them. So I still have all of my labels from last year and the year before. But I went ahead and I purchased some new ones for this year. And on one side, I write the variety, and on the back side, I like to take any notes for my own personal use. So sometimes I'll put how many seeds I put in there so I can know how well the germination is on a certain variety. I put the date that I planted them. If I take those seedlings, when I take these seedlings and up-pot them, I will go ahead and write the date that I up-potted. I feel like this just kind of gives me a better idea of what's working for me and what's not, so I can go ahead and improve for the following season. So the first variety that I planted was my California Wonder. These are just the typical run-of-the-mill bell peppers. Because I am doing a market and planning on selling these, I did start as many seeds as I had for these, because these are just kind of not very specific, like a chocolate bell or another variety of bell. I just went ahead and I started these guys all together. Depending on how long you leave these guys on the plant will determine what color of bell pepper you get. All varieties will start as green and ripen into either yellow, orange, red, depending on what kind of bell pepper you have. The next variety that I started was the Yellow Monster. I grew this last year, and I did get quite a few bell peppers last year. I do intend on giving more space to my bell peppers this year to therefore get a better yield than I did previously. These are just a large 8-inch long, 4-inch wide bell pepper, hence why they are called the Yellow Monster. The next variety of peppers I started was my shishito peppers. These are a really good snacking pepper, really good to put in a cast iron with some butter, salt, let them sizzle in a really hot pan. These also, I think, were one of my better sellers at the market last season, so I went ahead and made sure I planted enough for myself as well as for other people to purchase. The next pepper is my Ash Country pimento pepper. I absolutely love these peppers. They're sweet peppers. They've got thick walls. They're a smaller, almost like, I don't know, smaller than a baseball. And I just absolutely love these peppers for snacking on. So I grew a bunch of these this year. The next pepper is my Alma paprika pepper. I got a comment earlier, and I think it was during my seed haul video, about a really delicious pickling recipe, which involves, they had linked another YouTuber's video. I'll go ahead and link their video in this as well. But it's essentially a pickled pepper stuffed with cabbage. In the video they use carrots, cilantro, garlic, and it just sounded really, really good. So it's going to be one that I'm going to go ahead and try. I think the main reason that I had purchased this was to make it into paprika, to dehydrate it and make it into paprika powder. Although I'm going to have to look into if that is the same pepper that's used for making that. The next pepper is my Emerald Giant green bell pepper. This is one that I've had seeds for. I just went ahead and I planted more of this as well. It's another sweet bell, very similar to the grand bell peppers in the beginning. Next we have the Ajvarsky pepper. I grew this one last year with the intentions of making Ajvar relish, which I believe is a recipe. I don't remember where I saw the recipe actually, or if it was recommended to me. But I either had someone recommend me the recipe or I saw it in a reading. But the relish sounded incredible. So this is another one I want to add to my must-can list. With, you know, fingers crossed that we get the peppers. Another one that I'm super excited about is the Hungarian hot wax pepper. This is another canning project. I always need more banana peppers sliced hot in my pantry. I use these on a lot of things, so I'm excited to get these guys in there as well. My number one seller from my market last year was jalapeno peppers. So I went ahead and I planted the rest of my jalapeno peppers. And this variety actually did really well for me last year. I do believe it is a hybrid from Haas Tools. And it always had an abundance of jalapenos on it, as well as they were pretty decent size. I will always have jalapenos in my garden just because I use them so regularly. And then the next two pepper varieties I planted this year are my Ancho Grande pepper as well as my Hidalgo poblano. These are both essentially poblano peppers, just names slightly different. I love roasting my poblano peppers in a cast iron, basically charring the skin, putting that in a bowl, covering it, letting it steam, and then removing the like waxy covering of the pepper, and then putting that or dicing that and putting it in my chili. It is so delicious. These do have a little bit of heat. Even with the heat, I still do add jalapenos into it. So these are always a must in my garden. And I also grew quite a few for market. I had to go back through my inventory sheet from the market that I did my first sale with to make sure that I was growing the varieties that people were purchasing, and I didn't want to leave those guys out. So of the peppers, I noticed that when I went through my inventory sheet from the last market that I did, that I did well in selling the serranos. So I went ahead and I started some more serranos. I think that was the last of yeah, the last of that seed packet. And then the one that I actually sold out of, I didn't have a ton of these available for sale, so I made sure I started more of these this year. Were my Sugar Rush Peach peppers. Now these are a really delicious hot pepper. I've used these in peach jam to add a nice little kick to that, and that is super delicious. And I'm sure there are plenty of other ways of utilizing this pepper. So I made sure I put these guys in a soil block as well. Now we are going into the tomato section of the planting. This year I really wanted to focus in on my red tomatoes and really finding some really solid, tried and true red tomato varieties. The first one is a recommendation from my stepsister who loves cooking some really good Italian food. So she recommended San Marzano. San Marzano is a paste tomato. This is a semi-determinate, so I guess it's kind of in between going buck wild and staying a set size. And so I started a whole bunch of these guys so I can get some good paste tomatoes. A large number of these are varieties that I have never grown personally, so this is going to be the first year trying them out. The next tomato is the Napoli tomato, which is another paste tomato. It is a determinate, so it will only grow to a set size and basically set all of its fruit at once versus setting its fruit as it grows. The next variety is the Silver Fir Tree. This is another determinate variety, and it looks to me to have more of a potato leaf, which doesn't necessarily mean that it changes the flavor. It just has a different shape of leaf. And then it says it's really good for canning, juicing, and eating. The next tomato that I planted is the Crimson Sprinter. This is another determinate variety, and it is a bright red variety available on the market. It is the go-to all-purpose tomato. This next variety is the Principe Borgie, which actually is a variety that I saved seeds from last year. The only issue is I don't recall if I bagged the blooms before they opened, therefore giving me a true to variety seed. So I'm not going to be selling this one at market. This one is going to be for personal use. These tomatoes last year were essentially a little bit larger of like a grape-sized tomato. They were perfect for making sun-dried tomatoes, which I thoroughly enjoyed using in some bread as an inclusion. So I'm growing more of these in the hopes that we get some that are similar. If not, we're gonna have some cool experimental tomatoes that may be completely different than the mother plant. The next variety is the Sheboygan tomato. This guy is a beautiful indeterminate paste tomato. It's about 6 ounces, and I think it's going to be a good fit, plus just I love the name. The next variety we have is the Castelluto Genovese. This is a really large slicer tomato. This is, I think, my 3rd year growing this tomato. And it's very flavorful. They're rather kind of flat and squished, but they have so much fluting, as you can see around the rippled edges. And it's just a really nice, beautiful tomato to add. The next variety was one of my best sellers at my market last year, and that is the Mushroom Basket. Again, this is a really nice fluted tomato that comes from Russia. Firm fleshed, sweet mild flavor, and not very seedy. So I made sure I planted plenty of those to sell as well as for my own backyard. Another variety that I think I purchased last year that I planted was the Black Prince tomato. It is an indeterminate. You can kind of see it has some purpling, which is beautiful. You can kind of see it has some darker shoulders on the tomato, which I always love a good fancy looking tomato. Although a lot of my varieties this year are kind of kind of just red, but that's okay. We're trying some new varieties. This is a medium slicing tomato, and it took the world by storm when its smoky, sweet, low acid flavor was introduced to tomato enthusiasts. Delicious dried, and makes an unbelievable tomato paste. So this is a variety that I had heard a lot about, and I finally purchased it, or remembered to purchase it, and that is the German Johnson tomato. This is another indeterminate variety, and it is one with notes of citrus and melon. It is a dark pink tomato when ripe that weighs in around a pound when fully matured. This plant produces all season long with high yields. Fantastic quality of fruit is perfect for the home garden or farmer's market. Spacing is important with this variety. Huge vines leave a minimum of 3 feet between each plant for the best production. The next variety we have is the Oxheart tomato. This is an indeterminate variety from Botanical Interests. I think named because of the shape of the tomato. So with the shapes of the tomatoes, you've got cherry, you've got paste, you've got slicers, and you also have oxhearts. Oxhearts are kind of in between slicers and paste tomatoes in size. These are typically used for making really delicious thick sauces. I haven't grown an oxheart since my first season. I think my first oxheart was the Florida Dade, which is a variety that came from Florida, which my best friend loved. She's from Florida. So this is another variety. We're gonna go ahead and give it a try. It's been a while since I've had an Oxheart tomato. The next variety is the Mexico Midget. This is an indeterminate tomato. Despite the name being, you would think it would be a determinate. It does say that it is a dwarf variety that is ideal for small spaces or container gardens. This is my second year of growing this tomato, and it was rather prolific for me. I did have it planted in one of my Greenstalks in the backyard, and it did continue to vine out. But it is more of a cherry-sized tomato. The next variety is another new variety to me, and that is the Black Krim. This is a beautiful purple red tomato. It is an indeterminate beefsteak variety, and the fruit has very few seeds and weighs in at about an average of a pound. It's sweet, smoky, and low acid in flavor. Originally crossed with a beefsteak and the Cherokee Purple, which I have grown the Cherokee Purple. Just not growing it this year. The next variety that I'm growing is the Sweetie tomato. This one is more so for my farmers markets rather than for my own backyard. I am not typically the person that goes and eats tomatoes fresh off the vine. It is something that I try every single year, and I feel like my taste buds I'm acquiring the taste for fresh tomatoes, but it's something that I typically leave for cooking. Or adding into cooking. So these ones are going to be for market. They are just a simple red cherry tomato. The next variety is Berry's Crazy Cherry. These were such a fun tomato to grow in the backyard last season. They are an indeterminate, and they grow huge clusters of tomatoes. This right here is a single cluster of tomatoes, whereas your typical variety of cherries, you'd have maybe 6, 7 tomatoes on a cluster. And Berry's Crazy Cherry, aptly named, these guys just keep going and going and going, and you will just simply be surprised at how many tomatoes this plant can push out. The next variety is Brad's Atomic Grape. It is a beautiful tomato. It is an indeterminate cherry. It is from Wild Boar Farms. Baker Creek just acquired it. The crack-resistant cherries in totally wild Technicolor shades and stripes, extraordinarily sweet. So this is another variety that I wanted to make sure that I had from market, just because it is such a unique tomato. And then last but absolutely not least, we have the Artisan Tiger Stripes blend. Now this is one variety of tomato that I found that I actually really do enjoy to eat fresh. It has a kind of citrus flavor. I think that the variety that I liked the best, because this is a multi-pack of green, pink, or blush. I think that the blush tomatoes from this packet were my favorite flavor. They are all very beautiful because they're stripy, especially the green tomatoes, which are really fun. This was one of my best sellers at my market last season. So I did, I think, finish off this packet this year and maybe planted a little bit more than I did last year, just so that I could make sure there was enough to go around. So there you guys have it. Those are all of the varieties of peppers and tomatoes that I am planting in my garden as well as selling at market this season. Please let me know if there's any varieties that you think I should have added to this list in the comment section below. There are so many varieties out there that it's wild. And I do know that there are still some tomato varieties that are on my list in my brain. I just haven't done it yet. So I just want to say thank you guys for joining me. We are getting in the throes of seed starting for sure. And it's only going to be a matter of time before we're out in the garden, getting our hands dirty, soaking up some sun, and really just enjoying being in the garden. So if you guys want to watch any of my other content, I'll go ahead and pop a video up here for you to enjoy until my next upload. But until then, thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you guys in the next video.